Good evening, everyone. It's my honor to introduce today's speaker, Miss Sai Girdhari. She holds a master's degree in botany from Savitribai Phule Pune University. She is a project coordinator at the SeasonWatch project. She is a project coordinator at the SeasonWatch project of the Nature Conservation Foundation. She loves to talk about plants and help connect people. So now I would like to invite Miss Sai Girdhari to take the stage.
Time for you or we will I tell you at about 35?
Yeah, that'll be good.
We can wrap up in 40. That's not taking it.
Hmm?
Yeah, 40. Yeah, 40. Okay. I'll do it for you.
Okay, good. Oh, just not switched on.
This one.
It's now. Thank you. Yeah, try it. Yay, it's working. All right. So I'm sure you've been staring at this title for quite some time now. But we're going to talk about tracking seasons, trees, and climate change as a citizen scientist. So let's begin with, does anyone of you use any citizen science platforms or contribute to any studies, like looking at birds perhaps, or any biodiversity, or even helping with AI that counts as citizen science these days, where you verify information that helps the model learn and it becomes more and more intelligent artificially. Um, there are also projects that ask people to look at galaxy pictures and identify things from that. There are a lot of things that are happening around the world that encourages people to participate. And the advantage is, of course, that we have a lot of people participating from anywhere in the world. So there's good amount of data that comes from across the time and space, right? That's why citizen science is a very useful tool these days, and many people, for many purposes, they're using this tool. And today we'll see how do we understand climate change better using trees, because trees, I feel, in my opinion, and I think it's indisputable, because trees are just there. Anytime you go out, unless somebody chops it off, which I think happens quite often in the urban spaces, especially, they're always there. And it's not easy to observe trees, right? And trees also are very particular and meticulous and punctual, unlike me, in the way they produce flowers and fruits, right? So we can use these uh, mm, phenomena that the trees display to understand climate change effect. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Okay? So we'll begin with how trees and seasons are connected, then how trees and climate change is connected. Then I'll talk about SeasonWatch, which has been feeding me and helping me live for the past 4 years, and has also become a part of my life and a lifestyle in general. And how can you also participate with SeasonWatch, right? And then I'll show you some resources that can be used to learn more about trees, because that's where we should begin if you're trying to understand the climate change through trees. But honestly, I'd also like to extend an invitation to another fantastic event that's coming up at the end of next month. So this is what I'll be talking about today, and this sort of summarizes what I told you about how trees change. These are pictures taken from Mumbai. This is an Indian almond tree, देसी बादाम, जिसका fruit हम खाते थे बचपन में, शायद अभी भी खाता हो कोई. And they have a nice red fruit that turns scarlet when it's ripe, and you can eat the astringent pulp. And once you're done with nibbling on that pulp, then you can just break it with a stone, and there's a very tiny almond inside. Have you done that? Yeah. Okay. Good. We all have similar childhoods then. So this is the tree that bears those fruits, and this is in Jan 2024, and this is in Feb. So trees do change quite drastically and visibly, and this change is what we're going to notice to understand what's going to happen. And why is this reliable? Because they do this at around the same time every year. They respond to weather changes, to their geography, to their surroundings in general, and then they produce these flowers and fruits and change their leaf cycle and so on. So this is another example of an animal labor tree, Amaltasha Bahava bolte हैं इसको. This is a picture from Bhubaneswar, shared by my boss. And this was this tree in 2021 in April. And you see that there's a few number of flowers here. And in 2022, also in April, there are flowers again. So they also do this changes in the cyclical events at the same time quite nicely, right? So the fact that they change at a reliably same time period across the years helps to understand if there's any change, if there's any difference in this, right? And what we bank on, or what can we observe, is that trees have leaves, flowers, fruits, and the cycle that these organs follow. So the leaves will start as new. They come out of buds, and then they are very tender. They're light green. Then they turn dark green. They mature. They become office goers, and then they also become old. They retire, and they fall from the tree. So this cycle of leaf is also coinciding with or followed by flower cycle. So the flowers start off as buds, then they bloom, and the purpose of flowers is to produce fruits. So when they're open, they attract a lot of pollinators. The pollinators come like bees, insects, butterflies, birds to some extent, bats also sometimes, and then they cause the transfer of pollen from the male organs of the same tree or different tree to the female part, and then the fruit formation happens. The fruit also follows a nice cycle where the fruit, when it's just forming, it's unripe, and then it ripens, which means it is ready and inviting for the birds and other organisms that eat it and carry the seed away, right? Sometimes the trees have evolved to not depend on any of these animals, and they just decide, I'm going to burst open and send my seeds out on my own. So they also dehisce like some birds do, right? And they split open, and they also show that stage on the tree itself. And this is also a stage that we can follow. The cycle of leaves, flowers, and fruits that goes on happening after the tree reaches maturity or an adult age. And studying of this cycle is called tree phenology. So, this basis of understanding climate change is tree phenology, where we track these changes in the leaves, flower, fruit stages and understand if these changes are happening at the same time, or is there any change in it, and if there is a change, why is that happening? Next, this is an example of tree phenology, or what kind of organs can we see, or what stages can we see on the tree. These are red silk cotton, or shalmali, or kate savar, or sinal, as it is called in different languages. And these are the different stages of leaves and flowers and fruits that the tree displays. Right? And this tree is a very peculiar life cycle where it starts shedding its leaves in winter. So around November, December, the tree will be completely leafless, and in January or March, it starts putting out these buds. This is of course a very advanced stage of buds. Buds also go through multiple stages. Green at first, and slowly, these petals will start jutting out and finally bloom like this. And this is called a boost bar for the birds, because it is so full of nectar that all the birds come to drink that nectar, all the bees come to drink that nectar, all the birds that eat the bees come to this tree as well. So it's a full blast and party that happens when this tree blooms. Yeah. And then, because of all this activity, this flower turns into fruit, which is unripe like this at first, and it ripens and then it splits open. So this doesn't rely on any birds or animals. It has its cottony cover around the seed, and they just fall down like snowfall, and the seeds roll around on the ground, and then they go to different places where it may find a suitable spot to germinate and grow into a new stable tree. Right. So this tree does this whole cycle every year, right? So this is what we're going to observe on multiple trees. This is a very nice example where people have used trees to understand the impact of climate change, or we just monitor trees, realize this is something that the trees are displaying, or we can understand from it. This is a graph generated based on this paper by Aono and Kazui, and this is a graph of the peak flowering. So imagine when the tree starts flowering, it was only a couple of flowers before, and then they increase, and then there's a time when the tree is fully in bloom. So that is blooming. And this is the date when the cherry blossom or sakura. Any anime fans here? Nice. So Sakura, as we know, is the core of every anime, everything Japanese, right? We cannot distinguish or separate that from the culture and the economy of the place. So people are very fond of this Sakura, and they're only for ornamentation and only have this beautification value. Don't turn into fruits very often. So only USP they have is this beautiful, gorgeous bloom that the whole world is crazy about. And Japan has had that for ages, and they have been monitoring when is the peak. Because when the sakura peaks, it's blooming. People take holidays, they go out picnics, they sit under these trees, and they enjoy their days and so on. right? So people from 800 AD, when they were kings ruling Japan, they have been documenting and keeping records of what was the day of this year when the sakura was in peak bloom in Kyoto, right? And here we see that from 800 to about 1800, this graph, even though it fluctuates quite a bit, it still falls between 10th and 20th of April, right? So this is when spring has arrived and the tree is in peak bloom. In 1800, thing happened and the peak started coming sooner. So the flower cycle has started happening sooner for sakura. What was the reason? What happened in 1800? Industrial revolution. Wait. So that's when the carbon emissions increased and the temperature started rising. So global warming started happening, and the trees have displayed the effect of that. That's showing that the weather has changed, the seasons have changed. So we are going to change our cycle, which means trees respond to temperature, right? If there's a temperature rise sooner in the year, then their cycle will also shift. Correct? Now we think about this difference, which is about 7 to 8 days. Look, it's now falling between 1st and 10th April. Earlier it was in 10th and 20th April. It's just 8 to 10 days of difference. What can that do? Why is it so concerning? May not be so concerning for humans because we're not looking at this as food source, but there are many other animals that do look at this as food source. And here's another example that sort of illustrates that. This is a study from the Oxfordshire in the UK, and this is called pedunculate oak. It's a very nice tree which again responds to temperature really well. And how it does that is in winter, in autumn and winter, the tree starts shedding its leaves and is leafless. But in spring, it brings out these new leaves, right? And when the new leaves are out, there are also flowers. So it's all celebrating spring. And when the leaves are out, this winter moth lays eggs on these leaves, and then bears come out and start eating these leaves. Now, this when there's an abundance of winter moth larvae or caterpillar, then this babies of the great tit bird also come out, and this is a really nice food for the babies. Even those birds may be carnivore, herbivores for the rest of their life. They may eat grains, but they need protein for the kids. So they always feed caterpillars or grubs or spiders and stuff like that to the new generation, the fledglings. The yeah. So what happened when people were studying this? A group of scientists were studying this for 75 years. So they started this study 75 years ago, and they observed that pedunculate oak has started putting out new leaves almost 3 weeks earlier than it usually does, than historically recorded. Right now, they saw that there was some gap and lag, and the winter moth larvae could not catch the new leaves, which are more edible than the older leaves. And then they lost like a maybe a generation of these. But because this is a smaller, simpler organism, it should soon adapted to the new leaf cycle also. Right, so it also started laying eggs when these new leaves are out. Then the great tit, the bird, which is more complex, it wasn't very quick to adjust to this change. So it again took 2 to 3 generations that were lost, that the winter moth larvae could not be fed to the babies and so on. But about 2 years ago, they observed this cycle has changed as well. Fledglings, the chicks also started hatching out of the eggs 3 weeks early, corresponds with the change that the trees have displayed. Right? So this whole food chain has shifted 3 weeks early. Now, if the animals had not adjusted to this new change that the trees are displaying as a result of climate change, there could have been local repercussions like local extinction, perhaps, or change in this food cycle. Right? So, this is why even a small change in what trees are doing and what cycle they follow can have big impacts on the whole ecology or on the other animals that depend on these plants. And of course, we do depend on plants because we're talking about trees here, but farming, agriculture is also our livelihood, our food. And if climate change is impacting trees, it's also impacting grains and the food that we grow. Right? So we already see that suddenly coriander is costlier in the market. Why? Because it's not growing too well. Many examples that happen if you talk to farmers in the markets. They tell you कि इस साल बारिश जल्दी हो गई या कम हो गई, so it is not there in the market and now it has changed. There are people who say there's not enough mangoes this year. Yeah, imagine having to spend a summer without mango. So we also will be directly impacted by whatever trees decide to do in the face of climate change. Now, another thing that so everything is changing, and we want to follow or understand what is causing this change and how can we predict what will happen in the future because of this change? Right? So all these studies that we saw so far, like Sakura and the Oxfordshire Pedunculate example, they are from temperate regions of the world where there is a lot of fluctuation in the temperature. Winters are really cold and summers are quite warm. So the trees respond really well to the temperature alone. And they have dormant phases during autumn and winter where temperatures decrease. And when it's warmer in spring and summer, then it's the active period of the trees when the flowers come, leaves come, fruits come, everything. Right? So it's very uniform that the trees respond to temperature and they change whenever temperature changes. And that's that. But in tropical countries like India, we have a lot more diversity of trees, and these trees are not very prone or they don't care about temperature as much because there are other factors also like rainfall and day length and the species that they belong to, whether the species inherently has two flowering cycle in a year. Like some mangoes in southern India, they flower twice a year. Do they flower just once a year? Like mangoes in Maharashtra typically flower once a year. Do they belong to a deciduous forest where they do shed all of their leaves? Or do they belong to a semi-evergreen forest or evergreen forest? So where geographically they are placed, what kind of community or other species are around them, what kind of temperature, rainfall they are exposed to, all of these factors determine what our trees are going to do. It makes matters much more complicated than the 75 years of study and understanding what's going on. But do we give up? But we also want to know what's happening with our trees, especially in India, because what's happening in the USA or in UK or in Japan doesn't apply to India, right? So that's where the citizen science and the prelude I gave to this talk comes in picture, where if you want to study this effect, we need more people on board. And it's a very simple way, just to look at trees and document the leaves, flowers, and fruits, and that data will help us go ahead and understand what our trees are doing, right? So that's why there are projects across India, but we look at small forest areas that are far from human settlements where the factors are not as exposed to many multiple factors. The trees are not exposed to multiple factors that when they're flowering and fruiting. So there are these regional projects across India, but that still gives only regional dot picture. But if you want to do something all over India, then you have to have more hands on board. Yeah. So that's why we are looking at citizen science, which is great for documenting things, studying seasonality, because we all experience seasons together and we can have conversations about, oh, this is happening in my place, that's happening in your place, and so on. So there's scope for verification of data also in that manner. And because we're so many of us, and if we choose even one tree, this group alone can look at like 50, 60 trees together, right? So that's a lot of data instead of just one scientist going to 60 trees alone and doing this. And it also creates awareness and connection with the environment. I'm sure we agree that nowadays, आज की generation nature से बहुत दूर जा चुकी है. We don't understand our trees. We don't understand the seasons. We don't know where our food comes from, etc. etc. There are lots of complaints that older generations do. But what are we doing for it, right? If we look at trees, if we get to know say what even the mango tree around me is doing, that still creates a lot of awareness and we are more attuned to our surroundings and our seasons. So that also is a big benefit of using citizen science and involving all of us, everyone in this study. And this is another example of how citizen science has achieved understanding how temperature and seasons are changing and how trees are changing with that. So this is a spring leaf index anomaly, which means in this all of USA, wherever there's color, that means there have been observations made by normal regular people from there, right? Not qualified, not highly trained, not paid to do this sort of people. So what we see here, based on their observations, is that wherever there's red, the new leaves of trees arrive 20 days early. Where there's white, there is no difference in the arrival of spring from the previous year. And where there's blue, like here and here somewhere, the spring arrived 20 days late. So we know that if we involve people and train them enough, these dates can help us understand what's happening throughout the country. Cool, right?
How many people would have contributed to that? They would have tend to
I have no idea, but the website has thousands, definitely more than thousands. Yeah, and if we think about tree data in general, then we don't have much baseline to fall back on. We don't know what trees are doing or what is the normal for our trees to compare the new data with, right? But what we have is festivals and rituals that include trees. So here is a nice map, a very preliminary map that tells you which state uses what tree during what time of the year. So in Maharashtra and Karnataka, we have Gudi Padwa or Ugadi, where the neem flowers and leaves are used. Have you been tortured by feeding you the kadhi neem chutney? Yeah, so that's Gudi Padwa ritual. No, it would feel amiss if that's not happening on one Gudi Padwa. So we have that connection with our trees. We know what our trees are supposed to do a certain time of the year. And if it's not happening, then we will definitely realize it. Now, what we need to do is if we observe something like that, we need to document it in a format that can be used to analyze the situation, right? So there are many trees that are used like that. For example, this is Panikona or the Indian laburnum that we talked about before. It's used in Kerala for the New Year festival. Now, like Sankranti, Vishu also comes on the fixed day of the year, which is 14th or 15th April every year. So it's even more reliable because when people don't see these flowers or see too many of these flowers, then they know something is amiss, right? Same goes for Palash and Mahua in central India, in actually this part of India, and Lal Buranj in the Himalayan region. So we do have these cultural baselines that we can compare current situations with and understand if there's any change because of climate change. Then I'll just skip this for now, but this is just a study that people in Kerala conducted, and they contributed some data, and that data analysis showed us how the pattern of Kanikona has changed. So instead of flowering, this is how it should have looked, but it's looking like this. The peaks are before the red line, which is the Visu day of the year, right? So they did attest to the observation through this data that there is some change in Kanikona have been behaving oddly. Now comes the main part, which is season watch. The goal of this project is to have not a like count or data or observation, but a whole pan India level observation of trees. And we are just a team of 5 people, and our goal is to reach as many people as possible, encourage them to participate and gather data, so that we can, do this study together. And how this data is collected is through tree observation. So you can choose one or as many as you like trees wherever you are in India and monitor them. And this data will help us understand the impact of climate change in India. Right? Now, how it works is we have an Android application which does not have any ads, it doesn't take much space, works more or less quite well. And then we also have a website for people who use iPhones that we get a lot of flack for, but we're trying to get it on the iOS as well. And what you do is you register, you make an account for yourself. So your data that is collected goes in your name. You get credited for it whenever it is used in any analysis, right? And you can register as an individual, so you can do it on your own. You can also have a college group together, right? A bunch of maybe 5, 6 students watching one tree and collecting data together. So college is also an option. And if you are an educator, you visit schools, you have nieces and nephews and kids who go to school, you can reach out to them as well. And like all of us, like as many people, more the merrier sort of situation here. So you can use the app and register yourself. Now, second thing is, like I mentioned, that India has a lot of diversity of trees. We have thousands of species, and if we just leave it open and anybody can watch any tree, then it's going to be really chaotic and a lot of data would come, right? So instead of that, we thought we'll start with some trees that everybody is very comfortable with and trees that are widely present everywhere, right? So we started with 172 species of trees. It's a very weird number because we go on adding trees whenever somebody requests for it. Provided they are willing to do long-term observation on these trees. So we started with some 15, 20. Now we're at 172. So there is room for, if you really feel passionately about a tree, maybe we can add it to the list. But we have this more or less fixed list of 172 tree species. It has trees like mango, jamun, jackfruit, chiku, all these trees that we are very familiar with, tamarind, that are very commonly found around us and found all over India. And what we look at is not saplings or trees that are just planted because they show leaf cycle, but because they're so young, the leaf cycle depends on many, many more factors and they're very prone to getting diseased and the leaves falling. So they don't really tell us a lot of information. about climate change particularly. So we look at adult trees that bear flowers and fruits. And the idea is to observe as many individuals as possible so that we can generalize our observation. So we can say that okay, mango tree in this state, this part of the state is following this pattern. For example, if I say I like biryani, it's like applying everybody likes biryani. Right, that can't be done. Only when we do a survey and we check with everyone, then we can say maybe this much percent of people like biryani, something like that. Right. So we need more observations that we can safely say that this is what the tree follows. And then if there's a deviation, then it is happening because of this reason. So for that, we observe as many individuals as possible of every species. But there's no pressure on individual because we have a lot of people participating. So you just start focus on yourself and like start with whatever feels comfortable and then go on increasing your observation. Okay? And just to give this anecdote that if we have 30 individual observations from a small area, then whatever that data tells us is the pattern that the trees follow. So that's the magic number that if we have these many observations from a region, we can say that this is reliable amount of data to conclude something about the change or the pattern of the tree. And this is page on our website that shows a list of all those 172 trees. Some of them are very familiar, some of them might be new, but that's also a nice thing because you learn about new trees. You go on these quests where you can identify new trees or look at new trees and learn about new trees and so on. So like it's a small project, but it makes many things happen, which I really love about it. Then yeah, so there are two ways of observation. One is regular observation. Now, if I want to understand how a tree is changing, then I definitely want to watch that change happen. So, how often do you think? Oops, I just didn't hear. Forget. So one observation per week is a good frequency to observe a tree in, because if you go every day, the trees are pretty slow. They're not that fast to change, and the data will just look repetitive. Once a week is a decent amount of time. And earlier, when I started watching trees with Season Watch, I thought once a week also is less. But then during summer, I saw one people tree which literally changed color every week. It started off with new leaves, which are pinkish in color, and they slowly turned greenish. And I saw that happen with my own eyes when I went every week. And I was so thrilled to see this change that I had to go every week to document this change. Right? So this also can bust a lot of myths for us that trees are very slow, they don't change much, they're boring, or they're static. And they're static, of course, in the way that they don't move, but they do change a lot and they respond to every single thing around them, which is insane. Another example is bubble tree, which is it's like hai to hai, nahi hai to nahi hai. Nobody cares much about bubble trees, but I have observed that every shower, even a seasonal shower, if there's supposed to be no rain but it rains, she will put out new flowers every single time. And this I've observed in Maharashtra as well as Karnataka. Now, I don't have that much data, so I can't prove it right now. That's what I've observed, and that's how the trees are to respond to whatever seasonal changes happen in the surrounding, right? Yeah, so one observation per week. And even if you're not able to make four observations in a month, even two observations is quite good. And I think it gives us a good break also in the meantime. Next is if you decide a Sunday to make your observation, then you make observation every Sunday. It's very important, right? And same time of the day is also quite preferable because some trees bloom at night, and if you don't see them at that time of the day, then you'll always see no flowers on the tree. There'll be only buds, something like that, right? So even same time of the day, same week of the day, same day of the week helps a lot. Thirdly, I think we'll see this when we go out. The trees are 3D, and suppose this desk is a tree, and I observe it from this side today, this side next week, this side next week, then that's going to be a lot of difference in the data and it won't be reliable. So we have to decide one spot where we stand and make the observation every time. Yeah. Then uh, this is a little technical about how the app works and the limitations of the app. So if you register a tree, so coming to wait, I'll just show you this first and then talk about this. Right. So there are two. This is the app. So you have registered and you've logged in. This is your page, the home page. Um, and here you'll see all the trees that you're observing every week. Okay, this is the regular tab where every week observations are seen, and this is a casual tab, which is another type of observation that will come to in a bit. So this is a tree that I have registered, because if I'm adding data again and again, and I don't want to select the species, location, because that's going to stay the same. So what I do is I make a page for the tree that I'm observing again and again, and this is where it appears. Okay. So how you do that is you tap on this plus icon, then you see a list of trees that you have. You choose a tree that you want to observe, and if you need confirmation, I'm going to show my contact number in the end. You can reach out anytime with the photos, and we can help identify that tree, and then you can register and season watch it. So you choose a tree and you tap on that button so that there's a blue background to it, and then it's selected. Then here they'll appear on a blue arrow that has that I've forgotten to add here, but you go ahead. Then next is location. Like initially we talked about how trees change their patterns as per where they're located geographically. Like in southern India, all the cycles happen sooner, almost a month earlier than the trees say in Delhi. So it starts like a wave. It starts like this and then go ahead in the higher latitudes, right? So that's why location is very important when we're noting what we're finding, because then we can use a very fair method that this tree is supposed to be flowering right now based on this latitude, right? And the weather patterns also, weather characteristics or weather parameters, they also change as per the location. So if we want to collate the phase of flowers, leaves, and fruits, and the weather, then we need very regional data about that weather. So that's why we have to put location. So this will come automatically. There's a pin put in Nagpur for some reason. You tap on this button, then it zooms in. Then you see this blue dot. You double tap on that to place pin, and your location is recorded. So this location is the tree's location. So you need to be near the tree when you do all of this. Hmm. Now, if I'm going to see a tree again and again, I might as well have a name for it, right? Because it's my friend now. So you give a nickname to that tree. Another reason, of course, more practically, is that suppose I'm looking at 5 mango trees, and all of those trees are going to appear like this. So if you just put mango, 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 then I don't know which mango is what, right? So mango 1, mango 2, mango 3, mango pratham, mango dvitiya, whatever works for you. Uh, that nickname is beneficial to understand which data point is for which individual tree, right? So we give a nickname, but people are very creative with that. And Kerala is our star state where a lot of students and teachers observe data. And these children have given their own nicknames to the trees, and they speak with so much love and so much emotion about the tree as if they're talking about some human being. And it's absolutely heartening to see that. So, nickname has again served many purposes than just understanding which data to where put where. Next, we have location type. So you decide, like you see where your tree is located and select these 3 or 4 options. You can put any notes if applicable. You can leave these empty as well. And tree height and tree girth are there so that we understand the tree is adult and old enough to be flowering and fruiting. So this is approximately calculated. Tree height, I choose 2 methods. If it's close to a building, then I just see how many stories it reaches, and then that is the approximate height. For example, if it's like 2 stories tall, ground floor plus first floor, then it's about 20 feet tall, and then I convert that into meters and put the height. If it's far away from a building, which generally never happens, I imagine how many of me would have to stand on one top of another to reach the tree's height, about 5 feet. So that's how you calculate the height of the tree. So it's approximate, whatever feels most fun to you can be done. And tree girth is the width of the trunk at this height. So wherever this falls for you, you measure it with either this method, go around the tree like that, or use a measuring tape. Again, whatever feels the most fun. But I think this is good because people really look at you weird because you're going around a tree doing this in the middle of a road somewhere. Once that is added, you can just verify all this information and submit. And then that tree appears in your regular section, and it says make your first observation, or it says something like this. And you tap on this blue button to add observation once every week, right? That's one. Second method is casual observation. So like I mentioned, I am generally in Pune, but if I come to Mumbai, but I still want to observe trees here. But I don't come here every week. So what I'll do is make this one-time observation like a fling. I'm just meeting this tree once, and I'll give you feedback on their personality just from the one meeting I had with them sort of situation, right? So what you do is just make one observation on that tree. This tree observation, it cannot be edited because it's what's done is done, but you can delete it if you thought you made a mistake, and you can make a new observation. Basically, like ghosting a tree after making one observation. Uh, and how that's done is you go to the second tab in the app, which is called Casual, and here you see all of these trees that you've observed so far from wherever in India. And so you tap on this button, this blue one. Then you see a list again, like we did previously. You select a species, you put your location, and then you put observation directly. Now we'll look at how this observation is done. Finally. So this is the method that SeasonWatch chooses. Now, one thing about citizen science is that we have a lot of very unique opinions. But if we do that in scientific data collection, then we know that doesn't work really well. So we need to all agree and have one method of data collection, which is this one third method. And what we do is we note the status of all of these stages on the tree using this method. So we imagine this canopy into three parts. It can be like this Mercedes logo, or it can be a Y also, depending on what fits the best to the shape of the canopy. We need three almost equal parts of the canopy, right? Once we have that, then we see in how many of these three stages are my these parts are my stages present. I start with fresh leaves, then note for mature leaves, dying leaves, bud open, all of this. So I start with fresh leaves and I check in how many of these three parts do I see fresh leaves on the tree. Suppose then nowhere there are no fresh leaves on the tree. Then I put my status or observation as none. Okay. If it's in this one part here here or here, any one of the three parts, the observation is few. If it is in any two or all three parts, the observation is many. Okay. And just a secret, this is basically done so that we spend good amount of time looking at the stages and observe what animals are visiting the tree so that we spend some time together, right? How in school our teachers would give us some group projects so that you bond with peers and make friends and stuff like that. So it's something similar to that. So how this works is, let's try it on this tree. Okay, this is blue, the tree that I have registered today. And uh, so I'm imagining, like I'm going to look at the stages on this tree. And this is how these stages look. These are the new leaves, the mature leaves, the dying leaves, the yellow ones. This is what the buds look like, the open flowers, fruits, unripe fruits, ripe fruits, open fruits, right? So we also have this guide called Phenology Guide, where we've put photos of each stage of every of the 172 species that we have, so that we can compare it to what we see on the field, right? So try to remember what this looks like for now, and let's try and make an observation on blue. So I've divided it in three parts. Like you see, I'm not using Mercedes but a Y because that this divides the tree better. This is my first part, second part, third part. And I have gone to the page where I make observation and I start with leaves. Okay, so now let's see in how many of these three parts do you see new leaves? Is it good enough to be visible? Okay. Can you see new leaves? They are supposed to be light green and typically towards the end of the branches. No new leaves? Are they present anywhere? Left side here? Great. So, no other parts? Yeah, I realize that. Maybe when we go out, if there's enough light, we can try this on a tree as well. Okay, so for now, we'll go with this that there are few new leaves here, which is in one part. So, the observation will be few. What about mature leaves, which are these all dark green leaves? Many, because they're in all three parts, right? What about dying leaves? It will be yellow or sometimes red also in this case. They're on the ground for sure, but do you see them on the tree? Few? Few in one part. Okay. I had missed that. So I have made this observation. I have put new leaves as few because I see them here. Mature leaves as many because I see them in all three parts. And dying leaves, I don't see any on the tree, in this side of the tree at least. So I've put that as none. But we do the same for flowers. So these are the buds, right? these smaller ones at the tips. How many parts are there present in? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Okay. What about flowers? Open flowers, these purple ones. 3. Great. So our observation is many buds and many open flowers. Then comes the fruit. I realize that fruits are pretty tricky and you need close observation to identify the fruit. So I'll just do it for us now. This bulb here, that is a fruit, and I see it only one part, and there are no other stages of fruit because it's full of flowering right now. So you also like learn things like when there are flowers, the tree typically does not have any new leaves. It may have a few new leaves, but not much. The both don't come on a tree together often. Or if it's flowering profusely, there may not be any fruits. Things like that, right? But this comes after a lot of intuition and developing that by observing trees together. So for fruits, we have put few unripe fruits, ripe fruits or open fruits are absent, so we put that as none. We not left that blank, we put none because that is the status, right? And next we also we have some mold fields below, which is plant animal interactions. So if you see any insects, caterpillars, birds, butterflies, squirrels on the tree, you can tick mark that as well. But this is the major information that we need to add of the leaves, flowers, and fruits on the tree, right? So this is how you do it for casual as well as regular observation. This is the every week observation that we're supposed to make. So these stages will change. Like for example, the unripe fruit, there'll be many unripe fruit, then they start ripen, and then some of them will dehice, so on. So every week you make an observation, this data is going to change. What that appears as is this. So we have about 8 lakh, 8.9 lakh observations currently, and that's still not enough to draw conclusions, sadly. That's how statistics work. And this is one of the largest data sets to go on GBIF, which is a global biodiversity information platform where people across the world can access this data. So now, if somebody is working on tropical phenology or tropical forests and trees, then they're going to use this data, cite it to make their observations, right? And this is open on the website. You can look at it and explore the data on your own. And this is something that we've done recently. We looked at mango, jackfruit, and tamarind, three species that Kerala people love. So we try to understand what weather parameter affects the flowering and fruiting of these trees. Okay, so this is also interactive platform. You can go on our website and check it out. And what it does is it shows the species, the year when the data was collected, and how the pattern was. And I can look at flowering or fruiting, and then I can choose what weather parameter I want to check the impact of. So you can choose rainfall, maximum temperature, dry period, which means there was no rainfall, and period between two rainfalls essentially, and urbanization. And then there are other parameters that are static that play a role as well, along with these parameters like elevation, aspect of slope, and something else. So once you choose this, the other parameter will come automatically because their interaction has been proved. And then it shows you this GIF that shows you what is the relation between those parameters and the flowering or fruiting of these trees, right? And we want to do this for all the trees all over India. So imagine how much data that will require, right? Please observe trees with us. Now, coming to how do we start looking at trees if it's completely new to us, right? So, we also consider that we need some resources, and I have one pocket guide like this with me, but it can be ordered from our website and it can also be downloaded like this chart from our website. And it's a really nice tool to take on field and look at the leaves, flowers, and fruits together to understand and identify the trees that you see. And yeah, they're also available in Hindi, Marathi, Malayalam, and Tamil. And yeah, this is the phenology guide that I was telling you about. You can scan this right away, but it's also available on our website to download. And you can use this when you identify your tree, then you can use this page or this PDF that it is right now to identify what stages you see of leaf, flowers, and fruits and what the different stages look like. Yeah, can I go ahead? Okay. And of course, there are some other resources, very costly, sort of expensive books, but some pirated PDFs can be available too. And you can use them also to identify your trees and read more about them. This forest tree is a central, sorry. Jungle Trees of Central India is a really beautiful book where a non-botanist has written description of trees, and they look so romantic and they read so well, and it's just a pleasure to just go through. It feels like you're walking in a forest while reading about these trees. So it's a really beautiful book. I highly recommend it. It's a little costly, but absolutely worth having it, and you definitely will fall in love with trees once you read that book. And it's more for just enjoying the trees than just identifying them, So it's a really nice resource to have. And these two websites are what I swear by. Plants of India.net is compiled by good botanists across India, and it's very reliable information that you can look for. You can find plants by their habit, whether they're trees, flowers, fruits. Whether they're trees, shrubs, or herbs. You can look by the color of their flowers. So there are many ways of identifying plants from this website. And INAT is like machine learning. It has machine learning tool that if you upload a picture, you make an account, upload a picture, and it gives you options as to what it can be. So it's also a very nice tool to document what you see, and not just trees, every organism that is around you, right? From insects, birds, snails, butterfly, anything. You name it, any living organism can be uploaded on this. This is also a citizen science platform, and I also use it a lot because trees are not, you need to look at everything around you too. So these are some resources that I felt like sharing with you today. And lastly, when we can't really reward people for every contribution that they give to us, but we can do it thrice a year. And we try to do that with this competition come festival that we organize. So we have November Tree Festival coming up from 21st to 30th November. It's a nice way of practicing observing trees around you and covering a good amount of area, making a lot of casual observations and so on. And this festival is supposed to look at what the trees are doing in the autumn or winter period of the year. And it's spanning over 10 days. To make things exciting and competitive, we have these challenges. We have two or three challenges. We have two this time. And there are two challenges. One is 100 not out. You observe 100 trees in 10 days of the festival. And there's never before November, which is festival specific. This happens thrice every year. This we keep changing so that we get more trees observed. And this is called never before November, which means we focus on trees that do not have a lot of observations but are very, very common. For example, Devil's tree, Saptabarni, that is flowering right now. I'm sure you have smelt it or even sneezed because of the smell. Then there's neem, Mars tree, which is the falls ashok, these kulfi shaped trees that are on the boundaries everywhere. Then we have drumstick, which is a very common tree. We eat them very commonly, but there's not much data on their flowering, fruiting cycles. And we have the Indian almond, same thing with them too. So we focus on these species. So as many observations as you can on these species. And if you have the most observations across India, you get a prize. Right? So that's the deal with the tree festival. And how you participate is that you just make observations as usual. So if you're new, you register, make an account, and just go on adding observations. And to complete the festival challenges, results are announced about a week after the festival. So you stay tuned with us on our Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. We don't use so much this time, but LinkedIn and also WhatsApp. And yeah, we have prizes and winners to be announced after the festival. And lastly, these are my contact details. I handle the social media outreach for the project, so all of these lead to me literally. If you have any questions that we may not be able to discuss today, please drop me a message anywhere. I'll be very happy to stay in touch and learn more about the trees of IIT from the people of IIT. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this and it made sense to you. And we'll go for a quick walk and look at some trees in person and maybe try making some observations as well. Thank you so much.
You can use this. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Say. That was fantastic. Before we open it up for questions, I just want to, can you share a couple of your, I have this aha moment kind of question that I ask my class all the time. Also, both aha moment in the field, but also, you know, you given us some sense of the data and you're saying it's insufficient, but with the data available, uh, have we, say, in the Indian context, in the life of Season Watch, seen some interesting insights or patterns which we may have missed if we did not do this kind of exercise? So if two kind of little flavors of your personal experiences and what Season Watch does, and then we'll open it up to this audience. Yeah.
Thank you. I really love sharing this with everyone. So I'm really glad that I'm getting that opportunity. So you know Parijat or the night blooming jasmine? It's a white flower with an orange stalk, right? And that was one of the first trees that I encountered as a child, and I'm very fond of it because every Ganesh festival I would go to that tree in my grandmother's courtyard, and I would collect all the flowers and bring them home. And for the longest time until now, when I started season watching, I thought that it blooms only during Ganesh Chaturthi and no other time of the year. And when I started doing this, and I'm visiting this tree every week now, and I see the flowers throughout the year. It's just that I was biased going to the tree only during Ganesh Chaturthi, and I was thinking that this is when it flowers. And I asked many people across different. Based in different parts of India, they all said, "Yeah, we have flowers throughout the year." So it was the most biggest. My life has been a lie moment for me, and that's how. Despite being a botanist, I never wondered if it's true. I didn't question my bias until now. So that was one major silly sort of thing that happened with me. And second is it's a very curious case of how trees are very common and we use them. We are well versed with them, but we don't know stages that the tree goes through. Right? We have the toddy palm or tadgoya if you've eaten that ice apple fruit, right? And so I went to make some casual observations on this in the Belapur Green Valley Park, and there I saw that this was March last year or this year, perhaps sometime in March. And I saw that there's a grove of these trees. So there are multiple trees and they're standing in groups. So there's one group which has three trees and they were flowering at that time. So then I could identify that two of them were males and one was a female. I unfortunately did not add the photos here, but the males have flowers that look sort of like brown cobs of corn and they have yellow dots on them, which are the male flowers. So it's a big bunch of flowers and very tiny yellow flowers that are the male flowers exclusively. So that tree is a male tree which will never bear fruit, but it was one female tree. And I saw that there are multiple stages of fruit like structures on it. So it wasn't exactly like it was smaller, not entirely round initially. Then there was one more bunch which was rounder and bigger, and that clearly was a fruit. So I don't have a camera, so I used my binoculars and attached my phone to it and took some pictures. And I sent it to some botanists, and they said that this is the first time they are seeing the stage of flowers and buds of the female flowers. So this is like really good botanist, and I looked on the internet also, and we could not find any photos. But these are very subtle stages that the trees go through to produce the fruits. But unless we look at them very regularly, we miss all these other stages that may not be entirely useful to us. So it was also like a very I'm saving to buy a camera now because I need to document this stuff that I see. But that was another example of how, despite having a master's in botany, these are things that you don't get taught, or you know them in theory, but you never get to see them in person. That was also another amazing finding, and I really hold that very close to my heart. And there are many more, like there's Saptaparni or the Alstonia Devil's Tree, and people say it's haunted because nobody eats anything from that tree, right? The insects drink nectar. I've seen some moths hovering over the flowers with the long proboscis dipped into the flower. That's the only interaction I saw. But once I went to the Xavier's College to do a tree work, and there's a parakeet nibbling on unripe fruits, and there was latex, the white milky thing that comes from the sap that the tree has, that was getting stuck on its beak, and it was cleaning the beak and continuing chewing that. So then I was really curious as to what is it doing. And parakeets are known to be seed destroyers, so they don't really take the seed away or help the tree, but they help control the population by destroying some seeds. So this is the first time I saw any animal eating or doing anything with any other part than the flowers of that tree. So you never know that you'll find something really crazy and curious and interesting that may not be even documented so far. So it's quite worth doing this at no matter what level of knowing nature and trees you are at in your life. Yes, from the data. So data takes like a lot of time to be analyzed because we need that many number of observations. But what I love to do is if I see some observation, like I see Alsonia flowering right now, the devil's tree flowering right now, then I want to put some like the filter here. If I want to see Alsonia observations from all of India, the species is devil's tree and flowering, and I put the range of the date and I see these graphs. So that tell me whether every year it has been the same month where the tree peak flowering, or is it different this time, and so on. So it's a very helpful tool. And then every time I look at the data, there's lot of observations from here and nothing from here. So you can't really, you're just comparing your observation to Kerala's observation. That's what's happening right now, and that hurts me as a Maharashtrian. And I really want more observations to come from Maharashtra. But that's something to be done. But we have a lot of anecdotes that people have shared that don't reflect in the data typically. Is that people from central India, from Madhya Pradesh precisely, they say that because of erratic climate or climate change essentially, the timing of flowering of mahua has changed. So they go early morning in the forest to gather these fallen mahua forest, the flowers. But now they see that they've already fallen and dried up. So that can't be seen from this data. We don't know how to, how that will reflect in this data because we don't found the time of flowering or fruiting, like the duration in the day. But that's something that we came across, and that's also quite interesting. And also, when this Kerala data came out, where we understood what role parameters like temperature, rainfall, and or the degree of importance and influence these parameters have on the trees for their flowering and fruiting, it was like brain sort of cracked open, and now it felt like we're closer to understanding how trees change or how they respond. And this was not known about our trees before. We didn't know that maximum temperature is what influences mango flowers to be formed on the tree and for them to bloom on the tree. So now we have that, and now we're really curious to have this data on other trees as well, so that we're closer to predicting what will happen in the future, right? Even if we don't have data for 2050 right now, but because of a model that we can build from this data, we can predict that maybe mango won't flower as much in this year, something like that, right? So that was a really nice another thing that came out of the data for us. Thank you.
We walked with our class in the morning,
Okay.
and we saw the devil tree, we saw the moringa. So some of the trees that you showed us, that small group of 10 and 10, we did some walk today. Reshma took that tree walk. All right, hey, let's open it up for questions first with our master students. Anybody? Uh, it's just such a fascinating talk, so many interesting dimensions, both commentaries that you know nothing about.
Yeah, even if they're not around what we talked, that's cool too. We can talk about trees. It's too late in the day to ask, think of questions, no? Yeah.
Top did not cover East India.
Yeah.
Those areas, I mean, there are not such, I think, enthusiasts from that part of the country.
That's true. We don't have a lot of trees also because we don't know what people want to observe. We do have trees that are from Eastern India. Like here, you see some observations are made from the region. We're just trying to get a segue into that part of the country.
Are there IIT Bombay comes in this data?
No, not yet.
Single tree from IIT Bombay?
No. There should be. There are some. Okay, Reshma has made some observations. Sorry. There might be some observations. I will have to look at the data.
The size of China, the number of trees, we have 20,000 people on campus. It could actually be doing a fantastic contribution to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we will hope that we have inspired at least some of them. All right, great. Any questions?
There's somebody has raised their hand. Yeah.
Please do introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm really sorry because of lack of time I couldn't get your names and your favorite tree. So maybe you could tell me that also when you ask question now.
Oh, mango.
Okay.
So I'm from West Bengal. Is it on? Tree mango. Ah. So such a beautiful talk. I am Somdeep. I am a PhD student in Sitara, and I am from Rural Data Research Analytics Lab, Rudra Lab. So I have two-fold question for you.
Yes.
One is, yeah, but you were saying it's a very fascinating thing that the rituals, different rituals we have, and uh, the change in the trees, like that part.
Hmm.
You can elaborate how what could be the possible methodology, because we have different calendars
Hmm.
of different states.
Yeah.
So is this possibility of incorporation that? And another thing is I work with satellite data, so that thing, seeing the same from same angle, same
Yeah.
timing. So that time, is there any scope you see that where the citizen science and satellite, they can work together to scale the things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about
Thanks.
the first question that you asked, thank you for that. It's one of my favorite things to discuss. And these rituals are based on what people historically observed and what was very abundant around them. So they started using them in their celebration and lives during that period of time. And if we data that we have now, if you want to compare it to the normalcy or what is the baseline, what the trees are typically supposed to do, we compare it to the festivals itself. Like the Kanikona example, if you saw that graph where there was a red line and data from Kerala, so the peak of flowering is supposed to coincide with Vishu. That's what's historically happened, but that's not happening now, and that's why people are concerned. And it has been so catastrophic that some year people had to buy plastic flowers because there were absolutely no Kona flowers around. So this is what or that's Vishu. So we are using that as a baseline. So the festival rituals and also regional floras is the baseline for us right now. That's one. And second is satellite data is definitely the future of this, or ground truthing can be done by satellite. And there are many projects across the world which are currently using satellite data for phenology as well. So it's happening, but we are sort of pushing that little away because we also want people to connect with these um, through actual observation. And we have a lot of educational programs that are based on this project now. So we are not only citizen science, but citizen science and climate change awareness program from this year. So we are also using this as a tool for people and children especially to connect with trees around them. Satellite is definitely one option and it's already being used in different parts of the world for phenology. Yeah. Thank you.
But before Juan, you can't just Juan, a question from Juan has to come. Otherwise, the seminar is not complete. It's very important for us. So you will get your question, but
I'm scared now.
and very good question, huh?
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, Juan. Okay.
No, this, yeah.
Fine. And please do introduce yourself.
Yeah. So I'm Anushtup. I'm from Humanities and Social Sciences. So I just wanted to know whether, I mean, except for the calendar thing, do you have any other baselines so that we can compare the flowering of the trees? I mean, so that we can know that what the rate of change is. So
No, we don't. We don't have a baseline. So this data is also being used to produce a baseline and then compare the future observations to that. So we've not had that baseline either.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hello, myself John Mandy.
Hi.
I'm a PhD second year here at Sitara. I have a lot of questions, but I'll compile it into four sets of questions.
Okay.
One is basically the reliability of this data. This is a crowdsourced data.
Yeah.
One thing is there are n number of possibilities where the data can go wrong, which is one is the people cannot be experts. Not all of them are experts.
Yeah.
Second thing is what if they purposefully manipulated? That is also one more possibility. Within that itself, do you verify the details of these people who are giving you data? And features of that app include you ask about height, you ask about girth.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is going ahead and publish in a way you are publishing it, but the standard way of measuring the height of trees is using a proper hypsometer and measuring the height of it. Taking the height from the bottom 1.37 meters and then measuring the girth of it
Yeah.
and then calculating the biomass of it. Then you mentioned about the one third method.
Yeah.
It's basically leaf area index, if I'm not wrong. LAI in a way of getting a lot of data to bring it into LAI, right? If I'm not
I'm not sure,
okay.
but that's not how leaf index is counted.
Okay.
That much I know, but I
Yeah.
don't know how this was decided.
Yeah. So, and also the latitude, longitude is not the thing that you're exactly asking. You're actually asking the location in terms of address.
Yeah.
So in a way, the reliability of this data, if you are going to use it for publishing it, based on these aspects, if you refine it, probably it may help you as well. That is the first aspect of it. Second is what is the output of these observations to connect it? Do you publish it? And does it give you any sort of revenue? Because again, you have to maintain this app and website
Yeah.
you based on some revenue. So I mean that's how we can connect these two questions. I have one more, but I think it is about the delayed and early onset. Why is it happening? And whether you believe in tree communication that is happening, a very recent phenomenon. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So about the verification of the data, if like every tree festival, we get about 10,000 observations, and I analyze that to just give some preliminary results, as in how many people participated, which state contributed, how many observations, so on. And sometimes I see that trees are wrongly identified because of their location. It's just impossible for that species to be found anywhere else. So in that case, I write to these people because we have their email ID, we have their contact number. So we tell them that this is, can you send a picture to us so that we can verify that. And then we have conversation and we remove that data if needed. So that's done on a very small scale, where we can verify and then check. But in a larger data set, for like example, the Kerala data that was done, then we just remove the outliers in that case. And when the data is being uploaded, we have a automatic verification system that is in place right now. But it also, we've not done that right now, but we are getting experts on board to verify the identification of the species as well as the phenophases that they may display. So we do have a method of verification, and there are definitely a lot of concerns about the accuracy of the data. So what we do is, I don't want to share this really, but when we do that none, few, many, the few and many are treated as just presence and absence. So that really reduces the mistakes that people may have made in that observation. That's another thing that is done. And yeah, that's I think all we are doing for the verification right now. The location also, it is little faulty because the app is not great quality, and sometimes people just don't have really good phones that upload the location. But again, we verify with them, we ask them for photos, and then we check if the location is really right. Sometimes the location goes out of India also because of some reasons, but we do are in touch with people who upload data, because there are only 2,000 some people that upload this, and some of them are very enthusiastic. They've been doing this for all the time, so we're friends with them at this point. So we verify all this information with them when needed. And what was the second question? Sorry.
Regarding how do you maintain this data, and is there any output that
Huh,
comes out of
right. So we're funded by the Wipro Foundation, and really good funders in the way that they don't expect a set outcome from us. So we've been really able to do our thing at our pace all this 20-15 years. And we don't generate any revenue from this. We just produce some printed resources that we sell at the printing price. And the only way we get funded is through this CSR funding that we get. And we also keep writing other grants that fund us. But there's no other sort of revenue that's generated from this data.
So publishing research articles do you do that?
Yeah, yeah.
I saw 3 published.
Yes, yes, we
So
do.
again, the reliability of the data. So as you grow, one last thing is the resources probably need to increase and to check the accuracy, because you can't call everyone when the data increases.
Right.
Either you need more people or more data processing, big data processing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did I pass?
Sometimes projects will have millions of data sets and tens of thousands of people are computing. So there are systems and they're worked out both manual and automatic where I mean they are very aware of very valid questions. So citizen science projects are there's a main question that always comes about reliability and repair. And these guys have been thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any responses? Any thoughts?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Very
Hi, I'm Yashashri. I'm a PhD student at Sitara. My question was because you mentioned that most of these trees are in urban vicinities or even rural these days. Development causes for destruction anywhere. So, is there like a feature like, this tree is no more or something like that? Because it's a living entity, right? And then if there are these observations, there must be somebody who will be following. Yeah, it was destroyed to create some road or etc., whatever it is. So maybe that can also have that. And then also another question was, is there a way that they can account, like say, mini vlogs or something like that, or blogs, write about it? This is what my experience was. Like we sit around the tree or play around the tree, etc. Because it's children.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah,
regarding the
very nice questions, both of them. So when a tree is cut, then when you make an observation in that field, there's a notes section, and we recommend people that to just write if the tree is no more. And I've had to do that a couple of times, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. But that's just how we know. And then there are no future observations to that. Then that's also we know that the tree perhaps no more. Secondly, we do have a blog. It's called Tree Stories, and we put out a call two times every year. So there'll be one in January now, and second in June. And people do send their stories. So there are really nice stories about some tree that they lived with, or some tree they observed in the forest, and it's a nice array of stories. So you can please check that out on our website as well. It's under the explore, sorry, somewhere. It is shifted a little bit now, but please look for the blog, and there we have the stories. And again, it's also an invitation for all of you to share something, some story from your childhood, perhaps, or now, whatever. We would love to hear your tree stories, and we'll put them up on our blog. So we don't have a blog.
When the woman was trying to next to a dead tree. So that's it.
Yeah, yeah, people do. And many stories come of trees that were chopped down, that had fallen, that people had to move away from, that were planted for somebody who passed away, or planted by somebody who they lost recently, and the tree lives as their memory. And like it's a cry fest every time I read a story that people share. But it's I think all worked really well to bring forth these emotions that we have, and there's no other space to put them, no. So I think, yeah, that's why we started this blog, and we have those stories. Thank you so much for asking about it. I hope you have a story and you share one with us. Thank you.
Just one last is that the whole Kerala example with teachers and students and all that. I mean, that's like quite a success.
Yeah,
So maybe a little bit you can share about some interesting things about how children relate to again how is that.
sure. So Kerala works wonderfully for two reasons. First is Malayalis, and second is, oh, that's strange. That doesn't usually happen. But yeah, I mean, people are just driven and motivated and just love learning and anything education. So that works wonderfully. And second, we have a partner. So because this is a pan India thing, we have collaborations with different NGOs and entities that can reach to more people. And we have some 7, 8 collaborations right now. And our collaborator in Kerala is Matrubhumi, the media house. And they have a seed program, student empowerment and environmental education development, and they reach every school in Kerala, government, non-government, everyone. And we have a coordinator in Kerala who is one man army, and he trains these teachers and students all around the year for multiple years now. And he keeps this thing going. So that's why we have so many observations from Kerala. And many teachers also, they go way out of their comfort zone and their schedules and capabilities to really bring these stories of children and bring trees to children, and it's really heartwarming. And we have some of these anecdotes on our website. If you go to the about page, there's a YouTube video there, and it's in Tamil, Malayalam, uh, Tamil is spoken in Pondicherry, some from Meghalaya. And these teachers have shared how the students have shifted or changed and become more and more fond of trees. And there's one kid from Kerala who shares that his mango tree that he has given his own nickname to, had one myna nest on it. And then he tells it in a really nice, like it could be one actor sort of way that he narrates the story of that, how he found that nest and how he fell down, and how the mango tree also injured one time, and so when storm came, etc. And teachers also share how children have changed their perspective towards things in nature. Like initially, they would be creeped out by caterpillars, or they would think they're useless and have to be rushed out and removed from the tree. But then they did this experiment where they brought the caterpillars in the classroom and reared them and saw the butterflies and moths come out of them, and then they changed the whole perspective. And now they have much more understanding and empathy for nature in general. So we have some such observations, and also children waiting eagerly for the fruiting season to come, and that would be their motivation to add observations. So there are things like that that teachers have shared. Thank you.
Thank you. It is so fascinating. And now we are over. You can wrap up. You can go. If any of you want to join us for the free walk, just hang around and we will maybe half an hour or 40 minutes or something. You never done a night free walk?
No, yeah, this is one experiment that we're going to do today to see how it goes.
So please join. And please